Good afternoon, everybody. This is Caleb here with Indiana Storm Chasing Network alongside Ryan. We have a lot to talk about and not a lot of time to talk about it, so let's go ahead and jump right in here. We do have a couple days of severe weather to talk about here. Let's go ahead and jump right into the models here and time it out, and then we'll talk about the associated risks with it. Thunderstorms could develop as early as tonight into tomorrow morning. We do have a marginal risk for northwest Indiana, and that does go into effect today. However, we probably won't see any thunderstorms until later tonight associated with that. And I'll explain here as we go through the models here. We're going to have a warm front lift north throughout the area here later tonight. And with that, on the leading edge of that, we could have increased chances for precipitation, including elevated thunderstorms as well. Here we are at 1 a.m. here tonight. You can see some showers and perhaps a few thunderstorms working their way across western Indiana, including northwest Indiana. Potentially some snow across southern Michigan. Thankfully, we won't see that here in Indiana. However, here we are at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning and 6 a.m. So around your morning commute tomorrow morning, don't be surprised to see a few ongoing showers and thunderstorms and even some steady rain across portions of northern Indiana and northwest Indiana. Some of these stronger storms could have some small hail in them, so don't be surprised to see a stronger storm or two early tomorrow morning, primarily after midnight between that 2 a.m. and 10 a.m. time frame. We could have some stronger storms possible. We don't expect any severe weather with this. The severe weather threat will come later tomorrow afternoon. Let's go ahead and continue to play it out here. This precipitation will continue to lift north out of Indiana as we go throughout mid-morning, but this lingering precipitation will be key in determining how far north our severe risk will extend tomorrow and the severity of it as well. It depends on how much cloud cover we have and how the atmosphere is able to destabilize as we go out throughout the day tomorrow. Here we are at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You can see we are mostly clear across Indiana according to this guidance run here on the HRRR, but you look off to the west here in Illinois, we have some thunderstorms starting to fire. This is 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and here we are at 3 p.m. Mostly clear, perhaps a few scattered showers, and maybe an isolated thunderstorm or two mid-afternoon tomorrow. But again, these are likely to be sub-severe as our severe weather ingredients are still off to the west. They're still working their way into the state by this time. Some heavier showers and thunderstorms still ongoing in Michigan, but again, largely sub-severe at this point in time. But as we go into the evening hours, after 6 p.m. is going to be the time period to really keep an eye on across the entire state of Indiana. You can see some showers and thunderstorms begin to quickly develop after the 5 o'clock hour across Illinois before they move into Indiana. A very similar setup or a very similar appearance to what we saw on Sunday in terms of a line of storms that'll be working their way across Indiana. But there's an additional risk associated with that, and we'll explain here in a second. Here we are at 8 p.m. tomorrow night. So again, the greatest risk is going to be a lot of times after rush hour, during rush hour, or just a little bit later than that into the overnight hours of tomorrow night. So really a 6 p.m. time frame all the way to 1 a.m. is really the time frame we're looking at here for severe weather. Something to watch, though. Here's 8 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. We have a potent line of storms working their way across northern Indiana and western Indiana, but something to really keep an eye on are these individual cells out ahead of that line. If we are able to get these individual thunderstorms to fire out ahead of that, the environment becomes ever more favorable for the development of what we call supercells. These thunderstorms, to be a supercell thunderstorm, you have to have a rotating updraft associated with them. And within these storms, all hazards are possible between large hail, damaging winds, and perhaps a tornado or two would be maximized within these isolated storms here out ahead of the main line. So this is 8 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time, 9 o'clock. Again, this model here still wants to hint at some prefrontal supercells here ahead of the main line. But again, a powerhouse of a QLCS could happen across Indiana here today. Or sorry, not today, tomorrow night. Here we are at 10 p.m. So again, after dark, the main severe weather risk will go into the overnight hours. Again, it'll be dark outside for a lot of us here tomorrow night as these storms move through. So again, have a way to receive warnings here. Here we are at 10 p.m., 11 p.m., and midnight. Again, I'm not too concerned about the secondary line here that this model run in particular wants to have developed behind the main line. And the reason for that is this main line is going to use up a lot of the energy and is not going to leave a lot left over for the secondary cluster here. So I'm not too concerned about this. Again, the main timing would be between 5 p.m. Eastern time and about 1 a.m. Eastern time Thursday morning. So again, hazards associated with this. We have a lot of ingredients to work with tomorrow. We have a lot of wind shear present, just like what we've had here in the last few systems here. Again, a lot of wind shear, both in speed and directional, which are both needed ingredients for severe weather. We have a lot of moisture. We have a lot more moisture to work with this system than what we did on Sunday. Flash flooding is going to be another concern that we have here with this system, especially across southern Indiana, where we could see some training thunderstorms, where we have a couple rounds of thunderstorms move over the same areas over an extended period of time. That can produce very heavy rainfall and flash flooding as well. So some rainfall rates over 2 inches an hour can't be ruled out in some of the heavier storms. Our lacking ingredient tomorrow, or I guess not really lacking, but our greatest uncertainty is instability. We have that here in the middle here. And it really comes down to how the early morning showers move out of Indiana. How well is Indiana able to bake tomorrow afternoon, so to speak? How much sunlight are we going to see? How much time is there going to be for the atmosphere to re-destabilize ahead of the severe weather and thunderstorm probabilities tomorrow night? So that's the question in turn. But if we are able to get that destabilization component and increase instability, all severe hazards are possible, from damaging winds in excess of 75 miles an hour. Could have some large hail. Golf balls can't be ruled out, especially in our isolated storms, as well as tornadoes. We do have a risk for a strong tornado possible tomorrow in Indiana, and we'll talk about that here in a second. Our hazards here tomorrow include tornadoes, damaging winds in excess of 75 miles an hour, as well as large hail, potentially up to golf balls or 2 inches diameter, especially if we get our isolated supercells here tomorrow. Again, here's a look at the latest risk for the Storm Prediction Center. Here's today. We do have a marginal risk across northeast Indiana, or northwest Indiana, rather, and we really won't see any thunderstorms today. This will primarily be after midnight tonight. So really, you can say we have a marginal risk early tomorrow morning ahead of the main severe weather event tomorrow evening. Primarily some small hail, peas to nickels are possible as those storms and elevated activity moves up along with the warm front. Tomorrow afternoon, this is where we have an extended severe weather risk tomorrow. Again, by the Storm Prediction Center, the entire state is blanketed in at least a 3 out of 5, an enhanced risk. But also, according to the 2 o'clock advisory, we have been upgraded to a moderate risk across southern Indiana, and this is largely wind and tornado driven. So again, we do have that potential here for isolated tornadoes, and some of those could be strong. We do have the potential, I do want to say potential, for EF2 plus tornadoes. That's what the NWS considers a strong tornado, and a lot of that has to do with how well are we able to destabilize. Again, more time to destabilize and increase instability, the severe risk would go up. Less time to destabilize, meaning our rain showers and cloud cover hang around a little bit longer than expected tomorrow morning, the severe risk would go down and trend downward in turn as a result. Here's the tornado risk for tomorrow. As you notice, all of Indiana is in some sort of risk for tornadoes tomorrow. The greatest risk being in areas highlighted in yellow and red. The hatched area that you see there in black, that is an highlighted area by the Storm Prediction Center. The hatched area means there is a chance of an EF2 plus tornado where the environment is favorable for those higher end tornadoes if we're able to destabilize and if everything is to come together. Again, highly conditional, but the hatched area means there is a greater than 10% probability within any 25-mile radius of an EF2 plus tornado. So again, a very volatile environment tomorrow, with the highest probabilities being across southern Indiana, highlighted here by the Storm Prediction Center. Wind is going to be your primary risk tomorrow afternoon. Again, we talked about our squall line that'll be moving through our QLCS, quasi-linear convective system. Very similar to what we've had over the past few events here in Indiana. Again, these are very common in early springtime. A lot of times we get these very kinetic-driven systems, a lot of wind with them. This one is no different. Again, severe thunderstorms. To be a severe thunderstorm, you need 58-mile-per-hour winds or greater. We have potential tomorrow for significant winds, greater than 75 miles an hour. Can't be ruled out in some of the stronger Boeing segments associated with this line tomorrow night. And we can't rule out large hail either, especially in our isolated supercells. If we're able to get isolated thunderstorms, your large hail risk will escalate As you can see there in the hatched area means probabilities for significant hail greater than 2 inches in diameter. So again, golf ball size hail or larger is possible, and the key word is possible if everything is going to come together as forecasted. But again, there are some uncertainties with this, largely on the scale of instability. Are we going to be able to destabilize enough to allow the severe weather to be maximized across Indiana? And it looks like Ryan here has the instability chart pulled up here. We'll go ahead and pull him up here as he has what appears to be our instability tomorrow, and he'll go in and talk about that. So Ryan, go ahead and turn it over to you.
Yep. So we have those ongoing showers and storms across northern Indiana, potentially early Wednesday and overnight tonight. But your surface-based storm fuel is nowhere to be found in northern Indiana. It's actually down south in the Ohio Valley. But as we get into the day on Wednesday, we're going to see that instability surge north according to the model here. By the time we get to that mid-afternoon time frame, we do see good destabilization here on the models, and that is going to be why we have that significant risk for severe weather. But as Caleb mentioned, it is conditional on how those morning showers do work out. But as of right now, the thinking is we're going to have enough instability to support a severe weather threat. So as that continues off into the evening hours, we're going to see that start to kind of weaken a little bit and also kind of dissipate as these storms form and push across the state. And by the time we get toward around that midnight time frame, we've used up a lot of that storm fuel in the atmosphere here. But aside from this, I want to go into a few other things here that we have our eye on. Number one, the wind shear parameters. We do have a decently sheared parameter space across the state of Indiana, which is why you're seeing potential there for significant wind gusts, but also potential for a significant tornado. So wind shear is definitely on the table here, but also our spin in the atmosphere. We have plenty of spin to work with. We need about 150 or higher. We call it M2S2 or meters squared. That's your baseline. We have anywhere from 200 to 300, and even up in your Michigan border, the Ohio border as well, 400, 500 type of helicity here, which is your spin in the atmosphere. That is significant, and that's also why that threat for tornadoes exists tomorrow. But aside from that, we put it all together with wind shear instability. We have a very volatile environment that is forecasted to take shape there. We see those bright red and orange colors. That is your environment, the model signaling that the environment tomorrow will be very volatile for severe weather of all hazards. So do take it seriously. Again, as Caleb mentioned, it is going to be conditional on how the morning round of showers plays out, but everything is pointing to, at this point, a severe weather risk developing here. And as such, the SPC has the entire state of Indiana in the enhanced risk, which is in orange. The moderate risk is now pushed into the Vincennes and Jasper and Evansville areas. That is level 4 out of a scale of 5. So it's getting up there on the scale. And again, all hazards are possible, being tornadoes, wind, and hail.
Yep. And for those of you just joining in here, we'll go ahead and look back at the models here, and we'll go ahead and time it out for you. So here we are tonight. So again, we are in a marginal risk today for Northwest Indiana, but we likely won't see any thunderstorms here today. These thunderstorms won't likely move into Indiana until the overnight hours after midnight. So think of it as we have a marginal risk early tomorrow morning ahead of our enhanced risk for tomorrow evening. Here we are at 1 a.m. You can see some showers starting to move in across northern Illinois, northwest Indiana. And here's 2 a.m. A few thunderstorms, but this time early tomorrow morning around the 4 a.m. time frame are possible in northwest Indiana. These likely will not be severe, but there could be some embedded areas of small hail within these. Think pea to dimes. Nothing too significant, nothing too large, but don't be surprised if you hear some pings on your window across northern and western Indiana tomorrow morning. As we move throughout the morning, here's 6 a.m. A lot of you guys are on the road for work by this point in time. Again, a few heavier thunderstorms possible across northern Indiana, western Indiana perhaps, primarily across northern Indiana along the I-90 corridor and points just south and north. We'll see the heaviest rainfall early tomorrow morning. Here we are at 7 a.m., 8 a.m. Again, widespread showers and thunderstorms early tomorrow morning. These likely will not be severe, but again, don't be surprised if you see a few hail reports come out of these. Again, somewhere in the nature of pea to dimes, perhaps maybe some nickel-sized hail, but again, sub-severe hail is possible with the greatest risk for these. These will likely be what's called elevated thunderstorms, meaning the cloud bases will be really high, so that really brings down the risk for tornadoes and damaging winds tomorrow morning, but does leave an isolated hail risk associated with it as well. Temperatures won't be super warm, but at this point in time, either. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Here we are tomorrow afternoon. Again, how this activity right in here, how fast this is able to move out and leave the state of Indiana will set the stage for our severe weather tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow night. So the faster this moves out, the longer we're able to destabilize, the higher the risk for severe weather will become, and vice versa. If we see these showers and thunderstorms linger, especially across northern Indiana, the risk might be pushed a little bit further south or minimized. So again, stuff we're going to have to keep an eye on, especially into tomorrow as we go throughout the day. Here we are by 1 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. Again, a few thunderstorms across Illinois, perhaps northwest Indiana. Some of these could be severe, damaging winds, hail, and perhaps an isolated tornado by this time frame. But again, our maximized ingredients, our better ingredients are still off to our south and west at this point in time. They're still moving up. Here we are at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. A few showers, few scattered showers possible across Indiana, but likely no severe weather at this time frame. But as we watch into the evening hours after 5 p.m., you can notice this explosive growth of thunderstorms across central and eastern Illinois. This is our severe weather that we're going to have to keep an eye on tomorrow night. Here, 6 o'clock Eastern time, you can see a consolidated line or storm complex develop in Illinois. This is going to quickly progress eastward into Indiana. Here we are at 7 o'clock tonight or tomorrow night and 8 p.m. This is the time frame to watch across Indiana after 7 o'clock tomorrow night, so dinner time. A lot of the better ingredients are starting to become more favorable. They're moving into Indiana. All hazards are possible by this time tomorrow. Something we're going to have to keep an eye on, especially, are these developing storms out ahead of it. If we're able to destabilize, isolated supercells can't be ruled out ahead of the main line. And a supercell meaning rotating updraft, so all hazards are possible with these, from damaging winds, large hail, and isolated tornadoes cannot be ruled out associated with these isolated storms out ahead of the main complex. But again, this is highly conditional as to how the atmosphere evolves after our morning rain showers move out of Indiana. Again, the longer they stick around and the less time that we have to destabilize, the risk would therefore downtrend just a little bit. Nonetheless, this storm complex here is going to be the main event tomorrow night. This line of storms called a QLCS, Quasi-Linear Convective System, has the potential to be a powerhouse tomorrow night. Damaging winds, primary risk associated with that, up to 75 plus mile per hour winds cannot be ruled out. Significant wind gusts associated with your stronger bowing segments within this line here. So again, very powerful system is expected. Especially if we can destabilize the atmosphere tomorrow morning through the early afternoon. Spin-up tornadoes are also likely across the leading edge of this thing as well. We have a lot of spin in the atmosphere. Ryan talked to you about how much spin that we have in the atmosphere here today or tomorrow across Indiana. This in turn would allow a lot of those storms to rotate or develop embedded areas of rotation along the leading edge of this, similar to what we had the other day and a couple weeks ago as well. As we know, these spin-up tornadoes can occur very quickly, oftentimes without warning or below the radar as well. So again, take this very seriously, as all hazards are possible. Here we are at 9 p.m. tomorrow night. Again, it's getting dark now. This is nighttime. This will go into the overnight hours to where you won't be able to see these things coming. It'll be dark outside. So another reason to really have a plan in place and be prepared. Again, a very powerful QLCS here moving across Indiana. All hazards possible with it, from large hail, isolated tornadoes, as well as damaging winds, some of which could be significant, greater than 75 miles an hour. Once you get greater than 75 mile per hour winds, you're already on the scale of a weak tornado. EF1 range is right around that 75, 80 miles an hour. So again, even though it's in the form of straight line winds, it can still cause significant damage to your home, to trees, power lines, etc. So again, another reason to take these storms very seriously.
And I want to go ahead and sorry.
Nope, go ahead.
I was going to go ahead and talk about a few other things here as well. Aside from our threat overnight tonight, it's a low threat, but also the bigger threat on Wednesday evening. Going ahead to Thursday, Friday, and perhaps Saturday as well, we have severe weather risks in the state of Indiana, primarily for the southern part of Indiana. For Thursday, for example, really south of Indianapolis, south of Terre Haute, dark green and yellow colors there. Severe risk does exist for Thursday. Also into Friday, roughly the same areas there. A slight risk already in effect there from the SPC for the Friday timeframe. Then also Saturday, while the risk is off to the south in Kentucky, would not be shocked to see that extended further north into the state of Indiana here. So perhaps 4 or 5 consecutive days of severe weather here for southern Indiana on deck. And we'll be here to cover it all here at ISCN.
Yep, so again, a really active period that we're in here. Really similar setups that have really been taking shape here over the Great Lakes region and the Midwest as a whole here has just kind of been the pattern that we've been stuck in. But the good news is looking ahead, once we get into the mid-month especially, we should kind of see a little bit of a downtrend in terms of severe weather. We kind of have an upcoming pattern change that really promotes cooler than average temperatures. So hopefully that trend continues, as I know a lot of us could use a break from the storms and severe weather. But again, here we are at 9 p.m. tomorrow night. Again, a really powerful squall line moving across the state at this point in time. And we're going to have to keep an eye on these isolated storms here out ahead of the main line, as all hazards are possible associated with those. And here we are, 11 p.m. here tonight. Again, most of it is out of northern Indiana by this time frame, 11 p.m. midnight time frame, but still ongoing across southern Indiana. By the time we get to 1 a.m., the majority of the risk should be out of the state. We could have a few lingering showers and thunderstorms here. However, I think this is kind of being overplayed a little bit. This main line here is going to use up a lot of the ingredients that we have here in play tomorrow. So I really don't see this being too much of an issue tomorrow night. This is at 1 a.m. A few lingering showers perhaps, but I don't think we'll have any severe weather behind this line. As like I said, a lot of the ingredients will be used up by our main event as that moves off to the south and east. And then here we are at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and by 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, a few lingering showers across southern Indiana. But again, the severe weather risk will be over for the majority of the state. But we'll have to watch here as our next system moves in. We could have a reinitiation of some thunderstorms here on Thursday across southern Indiana that could bring renewed heavy rainfall, hail, damaging winds, all possible across southern Indiana on Thursday. So with that being said here, guys, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in chat here. We'll be here to answer them for you here. Go ahead and take a look at the SPC Outlook one more time for those of you just joining for our risk tomorrow. Again, we have been upgraded by the Storm Prediction Center. The entire state is still in a level 3 out of 5 in orange there. That is an enhanced risk, but we do have a moderate risk that was just added here at the 2 o'clock advisory here from the Storm Prediction Center. Again, that's largely a wind and also a tornado-driven enhancement if, and that's the big question, if we are able to destabilize and allow our severe weather to really maximize on the ingredients that we have here in play tomorrow. Again, that's largely dependent on how fast these storms are able to move out tomorrow morning and allow Indiana to further destabilize, therefore increasing the risk for severe weather. Here's a look at the tornado risk. Again, greatest areas for tornadoes favored in areas in yellow and red. And again, this is largely dependent on how the atmosphere destabilizes tomorrow afternoon. That's our greatest uncertainty at this time. Again, the longer time we have in a rain-free environment, the better we destabilize, the better chances at seeing severe weather as a result of that. Damaging winds, still the primary risk tomorrow outside of tornadoes. The entire state of Indiana is in a hatched area as well as in a red area, so a pretty high risk for damaging winds, some of which could be significant. Think 75, 80, and maybe even an isolated higher wind gust than that associated with our squall line, especially if we're able to destabilize. So we have a lot of dynamics at play that are going to allow these storms to pull down stronger winds aloft and bring those down to the ground in the form of damaging winds. And with that, we also can't rule out a large hailstone report anywhere in the state of Indiana tomorrow, especially if we're able to get isolated storms or isolated updrafts tomorrow. We'll have the greatest potential for large hail, some of which could be greater than 2 inches diameter or golf balls or larger. So again, a very volatile day tomorrow. Again, all risks are possible tomorrow, and these risks could go up if we're able to fully destabilize, or go down if we don't destabilize as much either. So still, stay tuned to the latest forecast, monitor the latest forecast, as this is subject to change, as these risks could go up and down depending on how we destabilize tomorrow. But again, a pretty decent tornado risk tomorrow, with our damaging wind risk being the highest risk tomorrow, followed by a few large hail reports. Can't be ruled out either. Something else I want to talk about, though, a lot of you guys have expressed interest, and what do I take with me when we prepare for severe weather? What do I bring with me to my safe place? Well, here's a recommended list that we have put together here at Indiana Storm Chasing Network. A quick little recommendation Now, it's not limited to just these items. Feel free to bring more items with you or whatever you feel you may need. But here are some good items to think about when preparing for severe weather. And all of these are household items that you have at home or can easily get, let's say at Walmart or your local grocery store. A NOAA weather radio, but make sure it's battery backup. Radio is a great way to get severe weather alerts, whether it's from the emergency alert system that'll buzz and alert you in the event a warning is issued. And you can also track the warnings with radio as well to know when your county is over and in the all clear. Flashlights. A lot of us lose power in severe weather events, so making sure we have batteries and flashlights are key, especially as this is going to go in the overnight hours. It's not going to be daylight when these storms exit Indiana. It will be dark. So having flashlights are always a plus to have in your severe weather safety kit. Portable battery phone chargers. A lot of us don't think about that, but our phones can't charge very well when we don't have power. So having those battery phone chargers is a key for communication with others, as well as keeping up to date on the latest information and alerts, as well as food, water, blankets. Alert whistles are another good thing to have, just in case you are in a situation that we hope nobody is ever in. But if you find yourself in a situation where you're in debris or something like that, alert whistles are a great way to alert others to know where you are at and that you need assistance. Again, we don't wish that on anybody, but just in case you are in that situation, alert whistles are a great thing to have, as well as emergency medication too. I know some of us are diabetic, some of us have other health issues. So again, having that medication set aside and ready to go, just in case you are in your safe place for an extended period of time, then you know you can get the care that you need to get you through until you're able to come out again. So with that being said, turn it back to the models here. Ryan, did I miss anything? Ryan is muted.
Yep, I'm good. I'm here now. We got a couple questions in here about the risk. Haley asks, is it going to be like Sunday storms north of Indianapolis? And Haley, that's a good question. And the answer is it's possible. When you get these lines of storms, they can produce a lot of wind. We're not going to have, a for sure thing. Weather is very ever changing. So we can't always say, yeah, it's going to happen for sure. There's always fail modes. But in the event that this is like Sunday, there is potential for it, yes, across the entire state of Indiana, which is why you're seeing that risk about the same, if not higher, in further south where the better instability is going to be across southern Indiana. So the answer is it's possible, but we're not going to know for sure until we're actually into the event.
Yep. So the entire state is at risk tomorrow. Again, largely dependent on how we're able to destabilize the atmosphere and maximize our severe weather potential. Again, the more time we have rain-free as these early morning showers move out of the region here tomorrow morning, these guys right in here, the faster we get these out of the state and out of the way, the longer we have time to cook, so to speak, right? Are we going to be able to bake long enough to make a loaf of bread, or are we not going to be able to bake long enough and we're just going to have a lump of dough? So that's really an analogy to look at with the atmosphere. How long are we going to be able to bake tomorrow and get our instability profiles to where we need them to be for widespread severe weather? Nonetheless, plan on severe weather tomorrow. There are enough other ingredients in place that I really think we will see severe weather tomorrow across Indiana. It's just how maximized is that? Where's the ceiling of this event going to end up? It's a pretty high ceiling event, meaning it can go really big, it can go somewhere in the middle, but I don't think it's going to be a bust entirely across the state because of how many other driving factors that we have here tomorrow. So again, take this very seriously. This could be quite a significant event tomorrow if we're able to maximize our potential and see that destabilization occur. So again, a very volatile event, a very significant event if we are able to maximize on atmospheric recovery and destabilization tomorrow. Again, we have a lot of dynamics at play that could bring a lot of risks associated with them. We have a lot of wind shear. We have a lot of moisture, a lot of fuel for these storms tomorrow. But again, how much instability are we going to have? How much lift are we going to have in the atmosphere ahead of our main severe weather event? And a lot of that will be determined by how fast these showers and thunderstorms move out early tomorrow morning and what cloud cover lingers as well. So again, these are questions yet to be answered. And unfortunately, we won't know the true answers until we go throughout the day tomorrow to really get a visual of how the atmosphere is going to recover. So again, this forecast could adjust, But right now, latest guidance is trending, unfortunately, to have those showers begin to move out of the state by early afternoon, mid-morning time frame. So we are seeing a window perhaps long enough to destabilize enough for widespread severe weather probabilities across the entire state of Indiana.
Olivia asked in the comments here about what time tomorrow we're going to know about the instability. And it's going to be right around noon or so. We're going to start to look around on real-time analysis around that noon time frame to kind of see how our moisture is doing, how our cloud cover is doing, how our instability is doing. And by that, 1 or 2 o'clock, I'd say, time frame, we'll have a good idea of what's filling into the state of Indiana here, if it's going to be a more than expected, about what is expected, or less than expected. So we'll keep an eye on that tomorrow. We'll adjust our communication to you guys accordingly. But yeah, expect that around late morning to early afternoon time frame.
Yep.
Catherine in chat here asks, what is the Torcon at? Torcon is a Weather Channel thing. We don't do that here. Honestly, I do not know if they have one out. If we had to put our own Torcon out, what do you think, Caleb?
It really depends on atmospheric recovery. This is kind of a loaded question here.
It really is.
For me personally, I would put it at a 5 or a 6. And the reason I say that is because let me actually turn on this model here. I'll show you what we have here tomorrow to talk about. We'll talk about why I say 5 or 6 and the reason I'm not going higher. There's potential for higher, but I'm not going higher for the fail modes that we have here tomorrow. Here's our tornado parameter here. Generally, when you see this higher than a 4, when you get to the 5 to 6 range, then you're really conducive. The atmosphere is really favorable for widespread severe weather, including tornadoes, some of which could be strong, EF2+, which is really where the SPC has that hashed area at, really favors our tornado parameters here that we have projected tomorrow. And the keyword is projected. We don't know if this is exactly where they're going to set up, but it gives you a good general idea of what the atmosphere is capable of, right? There's a lot of spin tomorrow. This is an average of where our spin, instability, and everything comes together to give us our parameters here. Again, they're higher in the south, a little bit lesser in the north, but nonetheless, still pretty significant and very volatile. But the reason I say 5 is despite having a lot of wind shear, a lot of high-end tornado parameters tomorrow, our limiting factor is instability and what our instability values are going to do. Once we get higher than, let's say, the 1,000 to 1,500 range, I know you don't fully understand what those numbers mean, but think of a baseline right around 1,000 to 1,200 for this time of year. Once we get higher than that is when we start talking about enough juice to really fuel these storms or severe weather. We're right around, some models are projecting as high as 2,000, and some are a little bit less than that. I know it's okay if you don't fully understand that, but to really get these numbers, we need our early morning rain to move out of the state of Indiana. We can't get these numbers as efficiently when we have clouds and rain. Rain acts as a stabilizing agent, right? Rain is a way of balancing out the atmosphere and stabilizing the atmosphere. We don't get a lot of air rising when we have a lot of sinking stable air as a result of showers. So the quicker we can get the showers out of the way, the more instability we will have, and then perhaps the tornado risk will go up. And another thing I say I'm limiting it at a 5 or a 6 is because of the storm mode, right? Storm mode really affects tornado genesis and how tornadoes form. When we have a line of storms, a lot of times damaging wind threat really takes over with the possibility of spin-up tornadoes or mesovortices, as they're called, along the leading edge of that. Nonetheless, tornadoes spin up very quickly, and some of them can be strong, don't get me wrong. But I feel like once you get into this QLCS line, the risk for EF2+ tornadoes goes down just a little bit. But if we were able to destabilize and get our isolated supercells here, then your tornado risk would go up a little bit. But for those reasons, uncertainty and instability, destabilization, and then storm mode as a whole is why I would limit it at a 5 or a 6. Again, I haven't watched the Weather Channel. I don't know what they put out. There's maybe lower, there's maybe higher. I don't know. Again, kind of a loaded question, but a lot of it is determined or will be determined how the environment evolves as we go throughout the day tomorrow. Was the upgrade a surprise? Yes and no. Again, this is a high ceiling event, meaning it has a lot of potential to go big if we're able to get that destabilization component. Again, we have a lot of ingredients that play tomorrow that can make this a real significant event across the state of Indiana. So don't downplay it at all, even though we say there are a couple fail modes, meaning we could have a couple variables in there that could really kind of kink the severe weather or trim it down a little bit. But if you put all things considered, even the fail modes, there's still a significant risk for severe weather across Indiana, despite those uncertainties. And for that reason, the Storm Prediction Center had enough confidence in Norman, Oklahoma to go ahead and place an enhanced risk across the entire state, leave it there, but also upgrade it to a moderate risk across southern Indiana, where higher confidence in those ingredients come together are at this present time. So again, widespread severe weather is expected tomorrow, and I would treat it as such.
If you guys got questions, now is the time to go ahead and pop those in chat.
Yep. While we're waiting on your questions here, I'm going to pop up a couple things here just to make sure, as a refresher course, to make sure we are all on the same page. Again, I put this little icon in here. You are here, meaning we know there's a severe risk tomorrow. So now is the time to practice and monitor steps 1 and 2 in terms of being severe weather prepared. Knowing where your safe place is and knowing how to get there is key in being prepared for severe weather. Whether you live in a trailer, whether you live in a manufactured home or a reinforced home, everyone still needs to have a designated safe place. So again, knowing where that is, knowing how to get there is key, as well as monitoring. Monitor the event, staying up on local forecasts, alerts, and be ready for alerts to be issued tomorrow if and when that time comes. So again, practice, monitor, take action. Hopefully we don't have to take action, but if you do, you already have that place and area designated to go to, and you can get there quickly with your severe weather checklist. So again, a lot of things need to come together tomorrow, but we also have a lot of things that are already in the works and look to come together tomorrow for severe weather. If you live in a standard home, where to go in the event that a tornado warning is issued for your home? Again, think of it as layers, right? Put as many layers between you and the outside as possible. Tornadoes and severe weather alike do their damage from the outside in. So the more layers you have between you and the outside increases your chance for survival, but also injury-free as well. That is key, being safe during severe weather. Underground is always the best option if you have that available to you. Anywhere underground in a basement is considered safe from severe weather. Now, if you don't have a basement, a lot of us don't, go to an interior room, bathroom, closet. Again, put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. If you don't have an interior room or a closet like that, maybe a good time to think about an alternative safe place to go in the event of severe weather, such as a neighbor's house that maybe has an interior room or a basement that you could go to and take shelter. Find those. Make sure you know where your safe place is in the event that a warning is issued. You have a plan and you're able to take action and go to that safe place. Again, go back to the comments here. Have quite a few guys in here. We got Kayla in here. Hannah's in here. We got Catherine in here. Haley's in here. Colton. Great to see you guys. Yeah, I see a lot of questions about timing again. So a lot of you guys are just now joining. We'll go ahead and time this out here again. One more time here. Again, overnight tonight, showers and perhaps a few thunderstorms across northern Indiana. Some of these could be strong with a few hail reports in there. Maybe some pea to dime-sized hail, but largely sub-severe, below severe criteria tonight. I know we do have a marginal risk across northwest Indiana. That's a level 1 out of 5, largely to accompany the isolated hail risk with these showers and elevated thunderstorms overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. Here we are at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. A lot of us are at work or on our way to work. Don't be surprised across northwest Indiana to see some heavier showers and perhaps a few thunderstorms early tomorrow morning. As you go throughout the day, here's 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and here's lunchtime. Here's 12, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. This model has a lot of the rain out of the way, with Indiana being mostly dry, maybe a few scattered showers across eastern Indiana by this time frame, but largely rain-free. Now, depending on how fast or how slow this rain moves out of Indiana will largely determine our ability to destabilize and really juice up the atmosphere ahead of our severe weather event tomorrow evening. So again, this is where our greatest uncertainty lies, is how fast or how slow this showers and thunderstorms move out of the state of Indiana ahead of our severe weather risk tomorrow. Here's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. A few thunderstorms moving across lower Michigan. Again, some severe weather is possible with these, mainly hail and damaging winds, but largely below severe criteria at this point in time. As we go into tomorrow evening, especially after the 5 o'clock hour, we expect rapid development of showers and thunderstorms across Illinois, Missouri that will quickly progress into Indiana. Again, everywhere in Indiana has a risk for severe weather tomorrow from tornadoes, some of which could be strong if we're able to fully destabilize. EF2 plus tornadoes cannot be ruled out tomorrow, as well as damaging winds. Some could be significant there too, greater than 75 miles an hour. Wouldn't be surprised to see a few 80-mile-per-hour gusts in there, especially as this line of storms races across Indiana tomorrow night. So here we are at 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m. The 6 to 8 p.m. time frame, or 6 to 9 p.m. time frame, that 3-hour window there is really going to be a window to watch across the entire state of Indiana from damaging winds, tornadoes, and large hail. Now, this is highly dependent on how the atmosphere is going to be able to destabilize tomorrow and how much juice we're going to have available for these thunderstorms. That'll also determine what storm mode we're going to have tomorrow. Storm mode meaning, are we going to have a squall line? Are we going to have isolated supercells? Or are we going to have both? Those are questions yet to be answered, and those are questions we can't answer right now because we don't know when the rain is going to be able to move out and how the atmosphere is going to respond to that. Those questions won't be known until around lunchtime tomorrow. Then we'll start to have a better idea. All right, we are destabilizing or we're not destabilizing. So those are questions yet to be answered, especially across northern Indiana. So again, northern Indiana has the most uncertainty right now. But again, all hazards are possible no matter where you live in the state. Here we are at 8 p.m. Again, we're going to have to watch these isolated supercells out ahead of the main line if they are able to develop it. And again, this is highly conditional on how the atmosphere destabilizes and ultimately determines what our storm mode is tomorrow. Southern Indiana, same thing. A very potent line here, but you can also see little bends and kinks kind of being depicted here by this forecast model. That's really indicative of a QLCS, just like what we had the other night, where you have those embedded areas of rotation or embedded supercells within the main line that can produce large hail, damaging winds, and spin-up tornadoes are possible all along this line from southern Michigan all the way to Kentucky and Tennessee. Here we are at 10 o'clock tomorrow night, 11 p.m., midnight. By the time we get to midnight, we could still have this line working its way across southern Indiana, but the majority of it will be starting to exit the state by midnight tomorrow night. And then here we are at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. Again, I know this is kind of showing some backside redevelopment here on this forecast model. Take that with a grain of salt. I really don't see this. I think this is kind of overplayed a little bit. And the reason for that is our main line here is going to gobble up all of our instability and energy and not really leave anything behind for anything else to develop. So again, I think it's just kind of overdoing it a little bit, but you could have maybe some remnant showers behind the line. But again, once this moves out, our severe weather threat will be done. But then we're going to have to watch and keep an eye on southern Indiana tomorrow, or not tomorrow, on Thursday for some redevelopment. We are in a severe thunderstorm risk somewhere in Indiana all the way through Friday. From today, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and maybe even Saturday for just kind of a stalled boundary that's been stationary along southern Indiana. That's really going to allow these systems to track across that. It's going to bring increased rain every day across southern Indiana, thunderstorms, some severe weather associated with that. But something else to talk about is the flood risk that we have here this week, especially across southern Indiana. Some places could get 3 to 5 plus inches of rain through Saturday, especially areas south of Indianapolis, where you see these renewed chances for showers and thunderstorms and training showers and thunderstorms, meaning they travel over the same area over and over again like a freight train, how all the cars follow in a row, where you could have all the showers and thunderstorms follow in a line, kind of like a train. That's why it's called training. And when you have those situations, you have situations where heavy rain, flash flooding, and river flooding all come as a result of that. A lot of our soils in southern Indiana and across the state as a whole are wet. They're semi-saturated, if not saturated. So again, our soils can't hold a lot of the water right now, therefore increasing the risk for flooding, excessive runoff. So if you do live in a flood-prone area, low-lying area near a river, monitor your river forecasts, monitor your water levels and how much rain you've gotten, as flooding is likely across Indiana, especially southern Indiana, where we could have some moderate to significant river flooding down there by Friday and Saturday by the time we've collected all this rain into our river basins and streams. So again, a multi-hazard week here from severe weather, both the hydrologic risk as well from rainfall, and then our severe weather as well. So again, a lot of things going on, a very dynamic week. But the good news is once we get through this week, looking ahead into the future, we do have a kind of a quieter pattern trend coming for mid-April. At least that's how it's trending right now. Temperatures are looking to cool off to a more seasonal, if not slightly below average. And when we see that pattern trend come, that'll probably shut off the severe weather momentarily mid-month. At least that's the hope right now. We'll have to keep an eye to see how that trends. So with that being said, any other questions you guys have, feel free to put them in the chat here. Yeah, I see some questions about the additional severe weather here. So I'll go ahead and show you that here. So here's today. Here's today in this box right here. Think of it as more tonight into tomorrow morning. We likely won't see any thunderstorms or rain before midnight today. This will likely be tomorrow morning. So think of it as we have a marginal risk tomorrow morning ahead of the main show. But again, I don't think severe weather is likely, more along the lines of some small hail, perhaps pea-size to dime-size hail. For severe hail, we need that to be quarter size or larger. Peas and nickels are enough to make some pings on your windows, but they're not going to dent anything or cause too much damage unless we get them in heavy enough quantities. But I'm not too concerned about that right now. Here we are tomorrow. Here's our main show tomorrow across the entire state of Indiana. Again, all hazards possible. Large hail, some significant up to golf balls or larger. Damaging winds, some significant, greater than 75 miles an hour. And the possibility of a stronger tornado, EF2 plus, if we're able to destabilize enough to get the atmosphere more favorable for that. So again, all hazards. And then here we are into Thursday. Again, primarily across southern Indiana, south of Bloomington, Vincennes, Evansville, Corydon, Jasper. You guys are in the risk here tomorrow. Primarily damaging winds, small hail. Can't really rule out a tornado, but I think our tornado risk is a little bit lower down here on Thursday across southern Indiana. Mainly, if all things, your heavy rain risk is exceptionally high tomorrow or Thursday with these showers and thunderstorms, followed by hail, damaging winds, and a brief tornado can't be ruled out on Thursday. Friday, the severe weather risk is a little bit less known, but again, over the same area across southern Indiana, Vincennes, Bloomington, Jasper, Corydon, Evansville, it's just kind of the pattern we're stuck in after this system moves out. We have a boundary set up, and we just kind of have renewed chances of rain, and more rain moving into southern Indiana through Friday and Saturday. And with that being said, we also have, I'll go ahead and show you something here. We're going to go to the WPC or Weather Prediction Center here, and I'm going to show you what our hydrologic risk looks like here over the next few days here. Here we are tomorrow. A moderate risk in southern Indiana for flash flooding or excessive rainfall. Again, the entire state is then a 2 out of 4. A slight risk for excessive rainfall. Again, we have a little moisture to work with. Really heavy rain is likely here. So the Weather Prediction Center has highlighted that and has expanded that over the last, over the last 24 hours as well. As we go into April 3rd, here we are on Thursday, again, over the same areas, primarily across southern Indiana. And something else that we don't have in day 3, don't have in day 2, that we have in day 3 is a high risk. This is very rarely issued by the WPC or Weather Prediction Center for an extreme risk for flash flooding. Again, training showers and thunderstorms. Though it is not in Indiana at this time, it is just snug up south of the Ohio River. So we're going to have to watch that very closely. But we do have a moderate risk, which is a 4 out of 5 for all of southern Indiana. Corydon, Vincennes, Bloomington, and points south and eastward for heavy rainfall going into this week. So again, a multi-hazard week here, a lot of stuff going on, and a lot of hazards associated with our weather here this week. So with that being said, any other questions here for you before we hop out of here? If you have any other questions in terms of timing, hazards, We talked about that here in the beginning of the stream. I encourage you guys to go back and rewatch that. Again, before we hop out of here, I'll briefly go over the hazards here tomorrow. We have an entire state of Indiana is in a level 3 out of 5 with a 4 out of 5 across southern Indiana highlighted in red. That's a moderate risk. Again, tornado and wind driven for that moderate risk in southern Indiana. Our tornado risk is quite high tomorrow if, keyword is if, we are able to fully destabilize and maximize our severe weather potential across Indiana tomorrow. Again, how fast does that rain and clouds move out tomorrow morning? The faster it moves out, the potential is greater for severe weather. The slower it moves out, a little bit less, and that severe weather risk could shift or deviate a little bit. Damaging winds, primary risk here tomorrow. The entire state is in a moderate risk for damaging winds, and the entire state is also in a hashed area for damaging winds, meaning that there's a greater than 10% chance within any point of 25 miles from a point where you can see damaging winds in excess of 75 miles per hour. So again, a pretty high risk for damaging winds tomorrow, and the hail risk is fairly high as well. Hashed area meaning any point within 25 miles could see a hailstone greater than 2 inches in diameter. So again, a pretty potent risk here and a pretty serious risk, and thus should be taken seriously as well. Here's kind of a simpler way to put it here on our dials here, on our risk threat meters here. Tornado risk pretty high. They're sitting just above medium there in orange and red. Again, that may go up, may go down. It really depends on how well we destabilize tomorrow. If we destabilize fully, we'll probably see a decent tornado risk here tomorrow across the state of Indiana, with damaging winds still being the highest here tomorrow, thanks to our speed share and our line that is expected to progress across Indiana. Once these storms move into a line, it really transitions into a damaging wind risk, followed by spin-up tornadoes. And large hail cannot be ignored either, especially in our isolated storms. Could have some large hailstones, golf balls, or perhaps even larger than that if we get isolated supercells throughout the day tomorrow. Again, greatest timing here tomorrow is going to be between 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time and 1 a.m. Thursday morning. That's kind of the time frame. 5 p.m. tomorrow through 1 a.m. Thursday morning is the window to watch for the greatest potential for severe weather. Now, that may speed up or that may delay depending on how the atmosphere recovers tomorrow and when ultimately those ingredients make their way into Indiana. But for right now, 5 p.m. through 1 a.m. is our time frame tomorrow. So with that being said here, guys, we'll probably go ahead and hop out of here. Thanks for watching. If you guys missed anything, I encourage you guys to go back to the beginning, rewatch the stream. We covered timing, hazards, and also kind of looked at the extended forecast a little bit too. And we'll continue to post updates on our Facebook page as well. We'll be live here tomorrow to cover severe weather. We'll have chasers in the field, and we'll keep you ahead of the storm. So with that being said, we'll hop out of here, and we will see you next time.